Hello and welcome to MC in Focus, broadcasting live from Montgomery College in Rockville, Maryland. I'm Nathaniel Kane.
And I'm Dan Hendricks. Now, I'm sure you've all noticed the speed cameras popping up all over the area. Well, now the Examiner is reporting the Maryland Court of Appeals will hear a fight about the revenue Montgomery County speed camera operator gets. The private company, ACS Incorporated, gets over $16 for every $40 speed camera fine. Local residents say the cameras often issue faulty citations, but it's cheaper to pay the fine than to take a day off work and fight the ticket in court. Maryland law states a contractor's fee may not be dependent on the number of citations issued or paid. Police Chief John Fitzgerald says it could be inferred that there is some incentive to issuing these citations. After Montgomery County Circuit Court and the Maryland Court of Special Appeals rejected the residents' claims, Maryland's highest court is scheduled to hear the case in June.
Well, earlier this week around the 5200 block of 4th Street Northeast DC, a man glanced out his window and saw a stranger trying to open the lock of his car door. He called one of his relatives, asking them to call 911 to the scene as he was going to record the incident on his smartphone. He then stepped outside and recruited one of his neighbors and then confronted the stranger. As this happened, 3 more neighbors joined in and the collective managed to hold the suspect until police arrived to arrest him. This episode comes at a time where the district has been confronting numerous car break-ins, mostly from items to steal inside, a difficult crime for police to prevent due to the speed and lack of witnesses for most cases.
With gas prices driving towards $4 a gallon, Maryland politicians are trying to find a way to make the state less dependent on oil. The Maryland Offshore Wind and Energy Act is waiting on Governor Martin O'Malley's signature. The bill says by year 2022, Maryland will have 20% of its energy come from renewable resources. Senior Energy Advisor Abigail Hopper uses a box to explain the 4 key standards that renewable resource developers are accountable for.
We have 4 important price protections, and I always think about them in terms of a box. So we've created 4 sides of a box, and in order to be approved to provide offshore wind renewable energy credits, you have to play inside of the box.
The box requires positive state job creation potential and not increasing monthly bills for residents, businesses, or the energy companies. The DC metro area has also started to install over 40 electric car charging stations to encourage the area to not shy away from alternative energy.
Well, cell phone carriers are seeing less loyalty from their customers. A recent study shows customers are switching carriers once their 2-year contract is up. The decline is making wireless companies rethink how they do business. With the release of smartphones, data use is growing as voice calls are declining. According to CNN, the average subscriber used just 638 voice minutes per month in 2011, down from 720 minutes in 2010. Customers are cutting back their voice plans, sending carriers' average revenue per smartphone user down to $83 per month last year. That's a drop from $86 in 2010 and $93 in 2009. Pierre Lane Sir, global communications industry leader at PwC, says that carriers have to act fast and possibly rethink their business model.
The Supreme Court wrapped up its hearings on Wednesday, but the battle over Obamacare rages on. The debate is over the Affordable Care Act of 2010 and whether or not it is constitutional for the federal government to mandate health insurance. Wednesday morning's hearings focused on if the law's roughly 450 provisions would have to be scrapped if the individual mandate were to be found unconstitutional. The Supreme Court's ruling is expected by mid-June.
Also in politics, another win by Mitt Romney in Wisconsin this week moves him a step closer to the Republican nomination. According to a CNN poll that was released Tuesday, 36% of Republicans support Romney for the nomination and 26% back Santorum. Moreover, a new survey indicates most Republicans would like to see Newt Gingrich and Ron Paul drop their bids for the nomination. Gingrich pledged on Tuesday to support GOP rival Mitt Romney. Next week, April 3rd, all the candidates will be present in the Maryland and District of Columbia primary, where Romney is already heavily favored.
Now an update on the shooting of Florida teenager Trayvon Martin. The parents of the slain teen took their call for justice to Capitol Hill on Tuesday in hopes of getting George Zimmerman arrested. In related news, George Zimmerman's father, Robert Zimmerman, has come out and said that Trayvon Martin threatened to kill his son and told Orlando TV station WOFL that Martin confronted his son and pummeled him continually. Robert Zimmerman was not there the night of the incident and did not say during the interview how he knew the details of the altercation. His statements have already been disputed by Martin's family attorney and several other legal experts.
Well, debris from last year's tsunami in Japan is beginning to wash up on the U.S. shores. More on that after a quick break.
Give a dog a bone? Give a dog a home, helping homeless animals today and every day.
Welcome back. Trash is washing up after the devastating tsunami that hit Japan more than a year ago. Debris has been floating towards North America since the disaster. People along the western coast have organized efforts to clean up the debris. A ghost ship has arrived with the first wave of debris and has stayed afloat since the disaster. So, switching focus, what's the weather look like this weekend, Nate?
Well, it looks like there'll be a lack of sunshine this weekend, so enjoy the sun and partly cloudy skies today, because Saturday will bring rain with highs in the upper 60s and dropping down to the 30s at night. Sunday will remain cloudy, highs in the mid 60s and lows getting down to the 40s. And so you don't have a case of the Mondays going into the week. Monday brings the sun back with highs around 80, but it'll be chilly in the morning. So we got lots of changes coming from Montgomery College. More on that story. Here's Candace Allgood.
Go MC! Give me purple!
That's right, MC. We have new school colors, and all the colors symbolize empowerment.
We have 3 very successful campuses, Germantown, Rockville, and Atoma Park. And they all have a different mascot and different school colors. So what is one of the reasonings behind all the campuses coming together as one?
Montgomery College found itself in August facing a new NJCAA rule, which meant that for multi-campus athletics, we were not going to be able to keep our teams the same way, where we had been able to have people to cross over from the Rockville campus to the Atoma Park campus to the Germantown campus to play, unless we fell into a group that was a one-college team system.
With the NJCAA changing their rules, how does this affect the athletes for all the MC sites?
I try to teach my student athletes real-life scenarios. I explain to them what happened, why the changes are coming this way for the next academic year. So once I explained it to them and they really got the underlying definition of what's happening and why it's happening, some mixed emotions again, but they did understand that we have to move this way. And once again, we're definitely given the avenue of moving forward in a positive way.
This doesn't just affect the athletes, it also affects the coaches as well.
We're going to go through a process where actually we look at the sports that had the multiple teams, and we're going to look at actually going through the process of hiring the person that will be the coach for our teams. I'll charge the athletic director for actually building a good group of coaches that are going to really reinvigorate.
We can't forget that MC is getting a new mascot.
Once we did the second vote, when it was just between the Raptors and the Guardians, it was overwhelmingly for the Raptors.
MC isn't just looking for a regular-looking mascot. They have decided to leave the creativity to the Montgomery College community.
We're having a design contest that's open to the entire Montgomery College community, including faculty, staff, students, and alumni.
No matter what Montgomery College's mascot the Raptors will look like, we know that will symbolize everything that our community stands for. I'm Candace Allgood with MC in Focus.
So Montgomery College is now the Raptors. Staying on sports, let's turn to Michael Callow for an update.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Nate. Starting off with hockey, the Washington Capitals had a very dramatic week. The Caps fell apart on Tuesday losing to the Buffalo Sabres 5-1. The Sabres left them in the standings to the 8th and final playoff spot. Moving on to last night, the Caps took on the second-place Boston Bruins. The Caps looked like they had a win all locked up as they scored the first 2 goals of the game in the third period, going up 2-0. The Bruins quickly came back and tied the game with 1:16 left in the third period. No team scored in overtime, and the game went into the shootout where the Caps prevailed and took home a victory 3-2. The Caps are now tied with Buffalo for 8th place, and Washington also trails the Florida Panthers by 4 points for the Southeast Division. The Caps have 4 games left on the season and take on Montreal tomorrow night in D.C. Moving on to basketball, the Wizards lost 99-93 last night to the Pacers. Nene led D.C. with 16 points and 13 rebounds. The Wizards' record is now 11-39, good for the 3rd worst record in the NBA. They play the Philadelphia 76ers in D.C. tonight. In college basketball, the NCAA tournament will come to a close this Monday. On Saturday, Kentucky will play Louisville and Kansas will take on Ohio State. The winner of each of those matchups will meet on Monday night. The remaining games are all taking place in New Orleans at the Superdome. On to baseball, the Washington Nationals will be without 2 key players as the MLB season starts for them next Thursday. Left fielder Michael Morse has a strained back muscle, and closer Drew Storen has an elbow inflammation. Morse led the Nats in hitting last year with 31 home runs and 95 RBIs, while Storen had 43 saves last year in his first full big league season. Both Morse and Storen are expected to be back in mid-April. Moving to football, former Eagles, Redskins, and Vikings quarterback Donovan McNabb had some choice words when asked about how Baylor quarterback Robert Griffin III would fit into Redskins head coach Mike Shanahan's offense. McNabb said, "No, because a lot of times ego gets too involved when it comes to being in Washington." McNabb also says Mike Shanahan misused him while in D.C. He threw 14 touchdowns and 15 interceptions in his 1 season with the Redskins and was benched for Rex Grossman for being out of shape. McNabb is currently unsigned in the NFL. Kick it back to you guys.
Thanks, Michael. Turning our attention up north, Miss Universe finalists, one of Canada's Miss Universe finalists rather, was disqualified from competition after they discovered she had undergone sexual reassignment surgery. While meeting other provisions, state rules require contestants to be a natural-born female. She began hormonal therapy at age 14 and completed reassignment surgery in 2010. In response to the disqualification, she is consulting with lawyers and said that she hopes to turn the situation into a positive one so that other people in similar situations are not discriminated against in the future.
Well, movie buffs, director James Cameron, who brought you Avatar and Titanic, broke records by diving to the deepest point on Earth this week. Challenger Deep, located within the Mariana Trench, is about 300 miles southwest of Guam and is nearly 7 miles beneath the ocean's surface. The only other humans to reach Challenger Deep were Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh aboard the sub Trieste back in 1960. Cameron spent the last 6 years developing and building the sub that can withstand the 16,000 pounds per square inch of ocean pressure. The total cost of the project is estimated to be about $8 million, and Cameron is picking up the bill. I'm sure he can pay for it. So, last night, that shootout, Hendricks getting Timmy Thomas on his back, it was just breathtaking.
You felt bad for the goaltender a little bit, didn't you? Just a tad?
I mean, cardiac caps, all they keep doing is these close games.
Brooksy putting it in the house.
Yeah, we'll see what happens later on in the season. I mean, 4 games left. So
4 games left, got to get that 8th spot. I mean, who knows what we can do once we get in the playoffs. OV almost got 40 goals for the 7th time.
All you got to do is get in. So,
well, that's all the time we've got for today on MC in Focus.
And thanks for tuning in on E-Radio as well. For Michael Callow, Nathaniel Kane, I'm Dan Hendricks. We'll catch you guys next week.